Welcome, dear viewers. Thank you so much for 20,000 subscribers. It means a lot. Become a member of Dr. Void family at just 99 cents per month and get exclusive episodes every week. I never should have signed that NDA. The New Horizons spacecraft went silent exactly 382 days after its Pluto flyby. NASA claimed it was an expected communications failure, standard procedure for a probe traveling beyond our solar system's edge. They lied. My name is Thomas Everett, Senior Data Analyst at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory. I'm writing this as a record, a warning, an admission of guilt. Whatever happens after today, I need someone to know the truth. The last transmission from New Horizons wasn't static or silence. It was data, impossibly complex, impossibly vast. The kind of data that shouldn't exist from an object in the Kyper belt. The kind of data that made Director Harmon physically sick when we first decrypted it. It's watching us, he whispered that night in the control room. God help us, it's been watching us all along. They quarantined the data, created a standalone network in Sublevel C to prevent contamination, assembled a team of 12 specialists, I was one of them, sworn to secrecy under national security protocols. We named our project Kyper Protocol. The first 3 weeks was simple analysis. The transmission contained what appeared to be a message, but the encryption was unlike anything we'd encountered. Dr. Walsh called it mathematics we haven't evolved to understand yet. Then Zimmerman found the key, a simple mutation of prime numbers that unlocked everything. What we found wasn't just a message, it was instructions. 7 rules to follow when communicating with what the data called the reflection. 7 rules with warnings so specific, so terrifying that 2 team members quit that night. Security escorted them to unmarked vehicles. We never heard from them again. The rules were absurdly precise. Times to transmit, frequencies to avoid, words never to use, physical orientations for equipment, blood types permitted in the transmission room. This is bullshit, Henderson said after reading Rule 5. They're fucking with us, Thomas. This is a Russian hack or some intern's sick joke. I wanted to believe him, but the mathematical models embedded in the data predicted solar flares 3 days before they happened. It knew things no human could know. We followed the rules. All of them. Even Rule 7, which required a specific team member to be absent during transmission windows. We followed them because the warning attached to each rule described consequences too specific to dismiss. Our first response transmission was sent exactly 7 weeks ago. The reply came 3 days later, faster than should have been physically possible from an object in the Kyper belt. The message contained 1 sentence. The door is open now. That same night, the dream started. Everyone on the team reported the same experience, standing before a mirror that didn't show our reflection, but instead a world like ours, but wrong, advanced, waiting. This morning, I woke to find a small black stone on my nightstand. I never put it there. When I touch it, my fingers pass through like it's made of smoke. The rules are changing. I need to warn you before it's too late. I couldn't sleep after finding that strange black stone. My apartment in Pasadena felt wrong somehow, like the dimensions had shifted slightly overnight. The coffee maker bubbled and hissed as I rifled through my notes, breaking another rule. We weren't supposed to take any information home. My phone lit up. Harmon. Get to the lab. Now. The drive to JPL took 20 minutes. Radio stations kept cutting to static between mile markers 17 and 23. When I pulled into the parking garage, I noticed 3 black SUVs with government plates. Military personnel stood at each entrance, not the usual security contractors. Dr. Walsh intercepted me at the elevator. His eyes were bloodshot, skin waxy and pale. He hadn't slept either. Henderson's gone, he muttered, guiding me through the corridors, His wife called this morning, said he woke up at 3:13 a.m., walked to the bathroom mirror and disappeared. She watched it happen. That's impossible, I said. Walsh stopped walking. Is it? After what we've seen? After the stone? My stomach tightened. You got one too? Everyone did. It's part of Rule 3, the physical anchor. But Henderson, he did something with his A's. The sub-level lab had transformed overnight. New equipment lined the walls, quantum processors, field generators that shouldn't exist outside theoretical papers. Director Harmon stood at the center, surrounded by tablets displaying data streams. Behind him hung a large mirror in a metal frame I didn't recognize. Everett, good. We need your analysis on the latest transmission. He handed me a tablet. The screen showed what looked like architectural diagrams, buildings with impossible angles, streets that folded back on themselves. These came through at 4:23 a.m. They're blueprints. For what? For here. For Earth. But not our Earth. The military personnel introduced themselves then, General Lambert and 2 science officers from DARPA. They'd been watching our project from the beginning. The Russians detected it too, Lambert said. The Chinese. Everyone with deep space capabilities has been getting these signals. But you're the only team that established successful two-way communication. I scrolled through the blueprints. They showed familiar landscapes, the Mojave Desert, the Pasadena foothills, but developed in ways that made no sense. Structures that seemed to bend light itself. Technology integrated with the landscape like veins in tissue. There's more, Harmon said quietly. Play yesterday's recording. The lab's main screen flickered. Security footage showed this same room, empty except for the mirror. At exactly 3:13 a.m., the glass rippled like water. A hand reached through, human in shape but wrong somehow. Long fingers with too many joints. It deposited something on the floor, another black stone, larger than the ones we'd received, then withdrew. We're breaking Rule 5 by showing you this, Harmon whispered. But you need to understand what's happening. The room felt suddenly cold. My credentials badge vibrated against my chest, the lanyard tightening like a noose. The transmission included new instructions, Lambert cut in. 7 more rules. These are different. They're preparations. Preparations for what? I asked. First contact. Walsh handed me a printed sheet. They're coming through, all of them, but we have to create the right conditions. The new rules were clinical, precise. The primary mirror must be mounted facing true magnetic north at precisely 42.7 degrees elevation. No electronic devices manufactured before 2015 can be within 50 meters of the mirror during windows of transmission. The anchor stones must be arranged in a heptagonal pattern, with the primary stone at magnetic north. Blood from a willing donor with Rh negative blood must be applied to the mirror's surface at each cardinal point. No substitutes. Between 3 a.m. and 4:13 a.m., no human eye can directly observe the mirror's surface. Observer. Thomas Everett must be alone in the room during the first phase of manifestation. When the reflection speaks, you must never contradict its statements, regardless of perceived inaccuracies. Why me? I asked, my mouth dry. Your name was in the transmission, Harmon said. Specifically. Lambert stepped forward. We're implementing tonight. The Chinese are 3 days ahead of us already. We can't risk them establishing first contact alone. What about Henderson? I demanded. His wife saw him disappear into a mirror. Doesn't that concern anyone? The room fell quiet. Walsh stared at the floor. Henderson broke Rule 7, Harmon finally said. He contradicted the last transmission, said it was impossible. We think he was recalled. Recalled? The anchor stones create a quantum entanglement, one of the DARPA scientists explained. a connection between points. Henderson may have been pulled through to their side. Or they harvested him, Walsh muttered. Like a sample. I felt dizzy, nauseated. The black stone in my pocket seemed to pulse against my thigh. I'm not doing this, I said. Lambert's expression hardened. This isn't a request, Mr. Everett. This is a matter of national security, global security. If another nation establishes first contact, we're at their mercy. And what makes you think we won't be at the mercy of whatever's on the other side of that mirror? Because they asked for you, Harmon said quietly. By name. In the first transmission, before we even responded. They've been watching you, Thomas, specifically you. The implications hit me like ice water. How could they know my name before we'd ever responded? What happens if I refuse? Lambert nodded to the security guards at the door. Then we proceed with someone who matches your general physical parameters. But the rules were very specific about you. Breaking that rule might have consequences beyond Henderson's recall. My phone vibrated. A text message from an unknown number. Your mother's mirror cracked at 10:17 this morning. Her bathroom flooded. She's staying at your aunt's house tonight. Do you understand? I had never told anyone at work about my mother. They gave me 6 hours to prepare mentally before the procedure. What a joke. How does one prepare for meeting an entity from beyond our solar system? An entity that somehow knew my name before we'd ever transmitted it. I sat in the JPL cafeteria, pushing food around my plate, aware of the guards watching me from the doorway. Not to prevent escape, to ensure my safety, Lambert claimed. My safety, after they'd effectively threatened my mother. Walsh slid into the seat across from me, coffee cup trembling in his grip. His wedding ring clinked nervously against the ceramic. They're not telling us everything, he whispered, eyes darting to the cameras overhead. I analysed the signal propagation. It's not coming from the Kyper belt. I leaned forward. What do you mean? The signal strength is too consistent, the response time too quick. Even with quantum entanglement, there should be degradation across that distance. Then where's it coming from? Walsh's gaze dropped to the table. I think it's already here. A cold weight settled in my gut. That's not possible. Isn't it? Think about it. The stones appeared in our homes overnight. How? Henderson disappeared into a bathroom mirror. The signal ... I think it's originating from Earth. Just not our version of it. My phone buzzed again. Another text from the unknown number. The cafeteria microphones are active. North stairwell. 5 minutes. I showed Walsh the message, his face drained of colour. Don't go, he said. It's a trap. From who? The government or the... whatever this is. Is there a difference anymore? I excused myself to use the restroom 5 minutes later. The guards let me go alone. Their first mistake. The north stairwell was deserted except for a janitor mopping the landing, back turned to me. Thomas Everett, the janitor said without turning. His voice had an odd quality, like multiple tones layered together. Rule 8. When suspecting surveillance, create 3 false information points before revealing truth. My skin prickled. There is no Rule 8. We only receive 7. The janitor turned. His face was Henderson's. I nearly fell backward down the stairs. What the fuck? Not Henderson, the thing said, smiling with 2 straight teeth. Henderson serves another function now. I borrowed his appearance for familiarity. My back hit the wall. What are you? The question lacks precision. You singular implies individual identity. Incorrect assumption. It lifted the mop, twisted the handle. The metal shifted, flowing like mercury until it formed a small device resembling a tuning fork. Earth faces extinction level event in 73 days. Asteroid designated XR 7391. Current detection systems inadequate. Impact site Pacific Ocean, 211 kilometers west of San Diego. Mega tsunami. Projected casualties 1.7 billion worldwide. My throat constricted. That's impossible. We'd have detected. Approach vector concealed by Jupiter's magnetic field. Detection window, 5 days from now. Too late for intervention. It offered the device. Survival protocol exists, requires implementation by correctly structured mind. Your mind. Why me? Not. Henderson tilted his head, the movement fluid yet wrong. Your brainwave patterns match necessary configuration, rare variant, 1 in 27 million. Bullshit. You're trying to manipulate me. Verify independently. Asteroid XR7391. Calculate trajectory using standard models with Jupiter field variants. The thing stepped closer. 8 true facts as proof. Your childhood dog was named Rusty. You broke your left arm twice. You're allergic to strawberries. You once shoplifted a Mars bar at age 12. You still dream about falling. Your father's last words were about baseball. You applied to Princeton, but were rejected. You keep your grandmother's watch in your desk drawer, though it no longer works. My knees weakened. No one knew all those things. Not colleagues, not friends. Some I'd never told anyone. What do you want from me? Implementation of survival protocol. If successful, asteroid diverted, Earth survives. And if I refuse, you won't. The thing's expression shifted subtly. You haven't in any iteration. Before I could ask what that meant, alarms blared throughout the building. Red emergency lights pulsed in the stairwell. Security breach detected, announced the PA system. All personnel, code indigo. Repeat, code indigo. Not Henderson smiled. Military detected anomaly, initiating containment protocol. Did you cause this? No, you did, by leaving designated area. Armed security personnel burst through the door below us. Not Henderson dissolved, literally melted into a puddle that slithered impossibly up the wall and into a ventilation shaft. They escorted me back to Lambert, who was furious. What the hell were you thinking? We're on lockdown because of you. Sir, I need to run some calculations. About an asteroid. XR7391. Lambert froze. Who told you that designation? So it's real. The general grabbed my arm, pulled me into a side office. That's classified information. Where did you hear it? The entity, it took Henderson's form, said the asteroid will hit Earth in 73 days. Pacific Ocean. Lambert's expression confirmed everything. Impossible. That information is compartmentalized. Is it true? After a long pause, he nodded. We detected it 3 weeks ago. Impact probability 94%. But the trajectory is highly classified. Only 8 people in the world know the designation and impact location. Then how did our friend know? That's what I want to find out, Lambert said darkly. The mirror activation has been moved up. We're doing it now. They marched me back to the lab. The mirror had been repositioned exactly as the rules specified, the black stones arranged in a perfect heptagon. A medical technician was preparing supplies for the blood application. This is insanity, I protested. We should be evacuating coastal cities, not playing with mirrors. With what explanation? Harmon asked. Global panic would cause more deaths than the initial impact. Besides, we have a plan to neutralize the asteroid. What plan? Nuclear interception. But the launch window is tight, and success probability is only 31%. We need alternatives. Like whatever's on the other side of that mirror? Harmon didn't answer. The technician approached with a needle. We need your blood too, Mr. Everett. Rule 4 specified willing donor. I laughed bitterly. Nothing about this is willing. Your mother, your aunt's house in Glendale, Lambert reminded me. We can ensure their safety during the event. Blackmail. But what choice did I have? I extended my arm. They drew 4 vials, applying 1 to each cardinal point on the mirror's surface. The glass absorbed the blood like a sponge. Countdown to contact window, 17 minutes, announced Walsh, monitoring equipment. All personnel not essential to the protocol must evacuate to minimum safe distance of 50 meters. As the room cleared, Harmon handed me a communication device. This links directly to our command center. We'll monitor everything, but per Rule 6, you must be physically alone. What if something goes wrong? The room is rigged with enough explosives to vaporize everything inside. Just in case. Comforting. As the final minutes ticked down, I stood alone before the mirror. My reflection stared back, but something was off. A millisecond delay in its movements, perhaps. Or maybe just my fraying nerves. The device Henderson thing had given me sat heavy in my pocket. I hadn't told anyone about it. At exactly 3 a.m., the lights automatically dimmed. Rule 5. No human eye could directly observe the mirror's surface for the next 73 minutes. I turned my back as instructed, facing the monitoring equipment. Contact window open, I reported into the communicator. No visible changes yet. The air temperature dropped suddenly. My breath fogged in front of me. The monitoring equipment displayed electromagnetic fluctuations off the charts. Something's happening, I said. The ambient temperature is down 12 degrees and falling. The communicator crackled. Everett, we're detecting a massive energy surge. Are you? Static. The connection died. Behind me, I heard a sound like ice cracking. Then a voice. Similar to the Henderson thing, but deeper, resonating on multiple frequencies simultaneously. Thomas Everett. Turn around. Rule 5 said not to look, but Rule 7 said never to contradict the reflection. I turned. The mirror's surface rippled like liquid mercury. My reflection was gone, replaced by a figure that resembled a man in the way a mannequin resembles a human. Close, but fundamentally wrong. We've been waiting for you, it said, for a very long time. The figure in the mirror wasn't human. It had the rough shape of one, 2 arms, 2 legs, a head, but the proportions were subtly wrong, as if someone had described a human to an artist who'd never seen one. Its skin had a translucent quality that revealed shadowy movements beneath, like organs shifting according to unfamiliar biology. Its face was mine, but with eyes too large, features too symmetrical. You're afraid, it said, my voice coming from its mouth with those strange multiple tones. Expected, necessary. Fear enhances memory formation. My hands trembled. What are you? Complex question. Simplified answer. I am you. From Earth. Not this Earth. Bullshit. Contradiction violates Rule 7, it reminded me. Compliance necessary for survival. I swallowed hard. Fine. You're me. From another Earth. Correct. Your civilization designates our location as Kyper Belt Object 2014 MU69, catalogued by New Horizons probe. Inaccurate. Not object. Parallel Earth, hidden behind quantum camouflage. The room grew colder still. Frost crystallized on the monitoring equipment. Our civilization advanced differently, it continued. Technological divergence point, 1211 CE. Your history. Genghis Khan destroyed Baghdad libraries. Our history. Libraries preserved. Scientific acceleration resulted. Current technological difference. Approximately 1,000 years. My mind reeled. The history sounded plausible. The Mongol destruction of the House of Wisdom in Baghdad was considered one of history's great intellectual tragedies. The asteroid, I managed. Is it real? Yes. Extinction-level event. And you can stop it. No, you can. With assistance. The figure stepped forward, pressing against the mirror's surface from the other side. The glass bulged outward like a membrane. Physical manifestation limited by quantum constraints. Direct matter transfer impossible without calibration. Requires compatible consciousness as anchor. You. What does that mean exactly? Your mind must temporarily host interface program. Neural integration allows technology transfer. My skin crawled. You want to… what? Download something into my brain. Imprecise, but functionally accurate. And what happens to me during this neural integration? The figure tilted its head. Temporary consciousness suppression, approximately 28 hours. No permanent damage in 94% of iterations. Iterations? You've done this before? Yes. And no, quantum probabilities exist simultaneously. We observe all possible outcomes across probability spectrum. Including ones where I suffer permanent damage? A pause. Yes, 6% probability. And if I refuse? Asteroid impact occurs. 1.7 billion deaths immediate. Subsequent climate effects. Global crop failure. Human extinction within 7 years. I felt trapped between impossible choices. How do I know this isn't some elaborate trick? That you're not just using the asteroid as an excuse for invasion or something? The figure seemed to consider this. Valid concern. Proof offered. Device in your pocket. Activate it. My hand went to the tuning fork-like object the Henderson thing had given me. How? Hold between palms. Apply pressure. I hesitated, then complied. The metal warmed instantly, vibrating at a frequency that made my teeth ache. The device transformed, flowing into a flat disc that projected a holographic display. A perfect real-time image of the solar system, with planetary movements accelerated. It showed the asteroid's trajectory, cutting across Jupiter's orbit, its path bending through the gas giant's magnetic field before heading directly toward Earth. Holy shit, I whispered. Projection accurate to 99.997%. Technology beyond your current capabilities. Further proof of claims. The display zoomed in, showing the asteroid impact in the Pacific. The resulting tsunami swept across coastlines worldwide. Death toll calculations flickered across major population centers. Jesus, I said, my voice cracking. Even if I believe you, how would this neural integration help? What could I possibly do to stop an asteroid? Not you alone. Your mind hosts interface. Interface activates deflection network. Preserved Kuiper belt installations from pre-divergence era. Common ancestors. Installations? Like some kind of defense system? Correct. Asteroid defense grid constructed during solar expansion era. Your civilization's timeline. Abandoned after funding cuts. Our timeline? Maintained, improved. It made a disturbing kind of sense. Budget cuts to space programs were a constant in our world. Who built these installations? Humans. Before divergence point. Approximately 2200 BCE, I laughed nervously. That's impossible. We barely had bronze tools then. Incorrect assumption. Human civilization cyclical. Previous technological peak. 3000 to 2000 BCE. Collapse followed. Records lost. Myths remain. You're saying advanced human civilization existed in the Bronze Age and then collapsed? Correct. Fifth known cycle of advancement and collapse. Current cycle, sixth. My historical worldview shattered. And your civilization didn't collapse. Partial collapse only. Knowledge preserved through quantum archives. Recovery faster. The mirror's surface rippled more violently now, the figure's outline blurring. Quantum window destabilizing. Decision required. Accept neural interface or not. My communicator suddenly crackled back to life. Everett! Can you hear me? Lambert's voice. The energy readings are off the charts. We're detecting radiation spikes. Get out of there now. I lifted the communicator. There's something here, General. It says it can stop the asteroid, but I need to… Do not engage further, Lambert shouted. That's an order. The Russians just reported their contact attempt failed. Their entire team is dead. Brains liquefied. Get out now. The figure in the mirror showed no reaction to this information. Is that true? I demanded. Did you kill the Russian team? Incompatible neural structures, unsuccessful integration, different outcome probable with your brain pattern. Probable? You said there was a 6% chance of permanent damage. Correct. Russian team, 92% failure probability, attempted regardless. Lambert continued shouting through the communicator. Everett, we're initiating containment protocols. You have 60 seconds to evacuate. Time expires, said the figure. Alternative approach necessary. The mirror shattered, not into pieces, into droplets like mercury that hung suspended in the air for a heartbeat before converging into a humanoid shape. The entity had crossed over. I stumbled backward, hitting the monitoring station. Alarms blared. The door to the lab sealed automatically, containment protocols engaging. Physical manifestation achieved, said the entity, its form unstable, rippling like heat waves above asphalt. Inefficient. Temporary. I pressed against the wall, heart hammering. Stay back! The entity observed me with eyes that kept shifting position on its fluid face. Mirror method failed. Direct neural interface required. It extended what might have been an arm, the appendage morphing into something like fingers, but longer, thinner. The tips glowed with faint blue light. Neural mapping commencing. No! I lunged for the emergency exit, but the entity moved with impossible speed, cutting me off. Resistance expected, unfortunate. Its hand shot forward, fingertips touching my forehead. Icy cold spread through my skull, followed by a sensation like thousands of tiny needles probing my brain. I tried to scream but couldn't, my body locked rigid, frozen in place. Images flooded my mind, a different Earth, gleaming cities with impossible architecture, technology integrated with biology, humans enhanced beyond recognition. Knowledge surged into my consciousness, equations, concepts, scientific principles centuries beyond current understanding. Then, deeper memories, not mine, of watching our Earth for millennia, observing our development, waiting. The asteroid wasn't a coincidence. They'd been watching for this moment, the perfect crisis to initiate contact. With tremendous effort, I managed to reach for the device in my pocket, the one shaped like a tuning fork. As my fingers closed around it, new information flooded my awareness, its true purpose. Not just a projector, but a weapon. The entity's eyes widened slightly. Interface progressing faster than anticipated. Neural assimilation at 42%. Knowledge transfer occurring prematurely. I understood now. This wasn't me from another Earth. Nothing so simple. This was something that had evolved from humanity in that parallel world. Something that had left flesh behind for a more efficient existence. And it needed bodies. Fresh bodies. Henderson hadn't been recalled. He'd been harvested. With the last of my strength, I activated the device correctly this time. Not with pressure, but with specific neural patterns I suddenly knew how to generate. The device transformed, extending into a shard of material that defied classification. Unauthorized access to defense protocols, the entity said, its tone shifting. Security response initiated. The room's temperature plummeted further. The entity's form destabilized, rippling more violently. Quantum anchor destabilizing, it said. Premature termination required. Its arm elongated, sharpening into something like a blade. It drove the appendage toward my chest, only to freeze inches away as the device in my hand pulsed with energy. Quantum disruption detected, the entity said, its multiple-toned voice fragmenting. How? You thought I wouldn't understand, I managed to say through locked teeth. But your neural interface works both ways. I can see what you are now, what you really want. The entity's form wavered, parts of it becoming transparent. Incorrect conclusion, we offer salvation. No, you offer invasion. The asteroid is real, but you've been waiting for it. Waiting for an extinction-level crisis that would make us desperate enough to accept your help. Through our partial neural connection, I sensed its surprise and confirmation that I was right. Individual comprehension irrelevant, it said. Process initiated. Quantum bridgehead established. More alarms sounded. The room's lights flashed emergency patterns. Energy containment failure, announced an automated system. Vacuum decay imminent. Emergency protocols engaged. The entity's form became more unstable. Miscalculation occurred. Your consciousness more resistant than predicted. I felt something warm trickle from my nose. Blood. The neural interface was damaging my brain, but it had also given me access to knowledge I shouldn't have, including how to use the device to disrupt the entity's quantum structure. Integration failing, it announced. Retreat necessary. Its form collapsed inward, flowing like liquid back toward the frame where the mirror had been. The droplets reformed into glass, solidifying into a new mirror surface. I collapsed to the floor, blood now streaming from my nose and ears. The neural connection was killing me, but I'd interrupted the process before it could complete. I still had control, mostly. Behind me, the lab door burst open. Lambert and a tactical team rushed in, weapons raised. Everett! I couldn't respond. The knowledge from the neural interface was burning through my mind. Too much information for a human brain to process. The last thing I saw before losing consciousness was the mirror's surface rippling once more, and my reflection smiling with an expression I'd never worn in my life. I woke up strapped to a hospital bed, electrodes plastered across my scalp. The steady beep of monitoring equipment filled the room. Military hospital, judging by the uniformed guard at the door and the stark utilitarian design. My head throbbed with the worst migraine imaginable, like someone had taken a drill to my temples. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst was the knowledge now crammed into my brain. Technical specifications for technology that shouldn't exist. Memories of places I'd never been and a constant stream of calculations regarding the asteroid's approach. "He's awake," someone said. Dr. Walsh appeared above me, accompanied by a man in a white coat I didn't recognize. "Thomas? Can you hear me?" I tried to speak, but my throat felt like sandpaper. The doctor offered water through a straw. "You've been unconscious for 36 hours, Walsh explained. "We weren't sure you'd wake up at all." "The mirror," I croaked. "Contained." "After your car encounter, the entire lab was sealed and relocated to a secure facility in Nevada." The new doctor, his badge read Kessler, shined a penlight in my eyes. "Pupillary response normal. Can you tell me your name and date of birth?" I provided the information automatically, then added, "The asteroid is 27.3 kilometers in diameter, primarily composed of nickel iron with a uranium core. Impact velocity will be 42,700 kilometers per hour. Pacific impact will vaporize approximately 1,100 cubic kilometers of water, creating a megatsunami with initial wave heights exceeding 400 meters." Both men stared at me. "How do you know that?" Walsh asked quietly. "Those calculations were just completed yesterday by our top team at NASA." "I know a lot of things now," I said. "The neural interface, it transferred information, technical specifications, historical data, astronomical calculations." Kessler made notes on his tablet. "And are you experiencing any foreign thoughts, urges, commands?" I understood the real question. "No, I'm still me. The entity didn't take control. Not completely, anyway. But there was something else in my mind now. A presence. Not conscious, more like a program running in the background. It wasn't controlling me, but it was waiting." "What happened to the entity?" I asked. "It retreated back through the mirror," Walsh said. "The military has the artifact under guard. No further activity detected." That didn't sound right. The entity wouldn't just give up after coming so close to establishing what it called a quantum bridgehead. It had a contingency plan. I could feel it within the knowledge dumped into my brain, fragments of its true intentions. "It'll try again," I said. The mirror was just one approach. There will be others. The door opened and Lambert entered with 2 aides. His expression was grave. "Everett. Good to see you conscious. We need to talk." Walsh and Kessler were dismissed. Once alone with the general, I noticed the dark circles under his eyes, the rumpled uniform. He hadn't slept in days. "The Russians are gone," he said without preamble. "What do you mean, gone?" "Their entire facility in Siberia, the Mirror Research Station, vanished. Satellite imagery shows a perfect half-sphere cut into the Earth, 2 kilometers in diameter. Just gone. 1,500 personnel. The Chinese station went dark 6 hours later." My stomach clenched. "It's starting." "What is?" "The invasion." The word felt inadequate. "Colonization, maybe. They're establishing footholds." "The entity told you this?" "Not directly, but I can piece it together from the information in my head. The asteroid is a convenient crisis, something to make us desperate enough to accept their help. But they don't want to help us. They want our world." Lambert studied me. "Our physicists have a theory. They believe the entity comes from a parallel Earth that's running out of resources. They've developed technology we can barely comprehend, but they can't create matter from nothing. They need somewhere new to expand." That aligned with the fragments in my mind. Their Earth is dying. Not just resource depletion, quantum decay. The fabric of their reality is unraveling. They need somewhere to go. And they picked us. How convenient, Lambert's expression hardened. "NASA confirmed your asteroid calculations, by the way. Impact in 67 days. The nuclear option is being prepared, but with the trajectory running behind Jupiter's magnetic field, we'll have one shot at best." "It won't work," I said with certainty pulled from my new knowledge. "The uranium core will fragment the asteroid rather than deflect it. Multiple impacts instead of one." "Then what do you suggest? Because it seems like our options are extinction by asteroid or invasion by parallel dimension entities." I closed my eyes, sifting through the technical information flooding my mind. There was a solution, one the entity had planted deliberately. "The Kyper belt installations," I said. "The defense grid, it's real. That's what the entity claimed, but we have no way to verify. I can verify it. The knowledge is in my head. Coordinates, activation protocols, everything. Even if that's true, we have no way to reach the Kuiper belt in time." "We don't need to. The installations can be activated remotely using quantum entanglement, but it requires specific equipment." "Let me guess. Equipment we don't have." "Equipment I can build," I said. "With the right materials and facilities." Lambert considered this. "And why would the entity give you this solution if its goal is invasion? Seems counterproductive." "Because activating the defense grid opens a back door. It creates a quantum connection that they can exploit, expand the bridge they've already started building. So it's a trap." "Yes, but one we might be able to modify." I tapped my temple. "The neural interface wasn't completed. They transferred information, but I interrupted the process before they could establish full control protocols. I think I can access the defense grid without triggering their back door." "You think?" "It's our only option. The nuclear plan will fail, and we're out of time to develop alternatives." Lambert stood silent for a long moment, weighing impossible choices. "If we provide resources, how long would it take to build this equipment?" 3 weeks, maybe less." "And if this goes wrong? If you activate their back door instead?" I met his gaze steadily. "Then you put a bullet in my head and destroy the equipment, immediately." He nodded slowly. "I can arrange a facility. Top people, materials, whatever you need. But you stay under guard 24/7. At the first sign of compromise, any indication the entity is controlling you, we terminate the project and you with it. Understood. As Lambert turned to leave, a thought struck me. General, what about the mirror? What happened to it after I lost consciousness? His expression was unreadable. It's being transported to the Nevada facility as we speak. Heavily shielded container, remote monitoring only. No, you need to destroy it, completely. That mirror is our only tangible evidence of the entity. Our scientists need to study. It's not just a mirror, I interrupted. It's a dimensional anchor point. As long as it exists, they can rebuild the connection. Destroy it. Lambert hesitated. I'll take it under advisement. After he left, I lay back, the weight of what I'd agreed to settling over me. The presence in my mind stirred, not controlling, but aware, waiting. I closed my eyes, focusing on it, trying to understand what the entity had done to me. The neural interface was incomplete but operational. I could access the technical knowledge, the specifications, the history of their world, but there were locked portions, sections I couldn't access without some kind of key. One memory surfaced clearly, Henderson standing before a similar mirror in his bathroom, reaching out to touch his reflection. His face changing from fear to calm acceptance as something flowed into him through the glass. Not a kidnapping, a willing transfer. I suddenly understood with perfect clarity I hadn't interrupted the neural interface process. The entity had completed exactly what it intended, a partial transfer, enough to convince us I was still in control while planting everything needed for the next phase. They wanted me to build the equipment. They needed me to activate the defense grid, but not to stop the asteroid, to open the door. The Nevada facility was a nameless bunker complex buried beneath desert rock. Officially, it didn't exist. Unofficially, it was where the government stored things that defied classification. 3 weeks had passed since my encounter with the entity. 3 weeks of building equipment that shouldn't exist using knowledge that wasn't mine. My hands moved with expert precision I'd never possessed, assembling components with tolerances measured in nanometers. The military provided everything I requested, no matter how exotic. Metamaterials created in zero-G conditions, superconducting alloys, quantum processors with experimental architectures. I worked 18 hours a day, rarely sleeping. When I did sleep, I dreamt of the other Earth. Cities like crystal forests, beings of light and matter shifting between forms at will, and always the decay eating at the edges of reality, consuming everything. Walsh visited daily, monitoring my mental state. He didn't trust me. Smart man. The device is taking shape, he remarked, circling the central component, a hemispherical array of interlocking panels that pulsed with faint blue light. Quantum resonator, I explained. It establishes entanglement with the Kyper belt installations. And you're certain it only connects to the defense grid? Not anything else. I met his gaze. We both knew what he was asking. The isolinear protocols should prevent any unauthorized connections. Should was the operative word. I had built-in safeguards based on my incomplete understanding of the technology. Whether they would hold against an entity 1,000 years more advanced remained to be seen. Time's running out, Walsh said quietly. Latest projections show the asteroid crossing Jupiter's orbit in 9 days. After that, we lose our window for nuclear interception. The military option was still their backup plan. A cluster of nuclear-tipped interceptors ready to launch if my device failed. A plan doomed to fail, but I couldn't blame them for trying. We'll be ready, I assured him, returning to my work. After Walsh left, I continued assembling the resonator's control interface. My fingers connected circuits that operated on principles beyond current human understanding. My mind filled with equations that would earn Nobel Prizes if I lived to publish them. The presence in my mind remained quiet but persistent, not directing, merely observing, waiting. I'd learned to wall it off, to contain it within mental barricades. But sometimes, when I was deeply focused on the technical work, those walls thinned. In those moments, I glimpsed what waited on the other side. They called themselves the Ascended, post-humans who had transcended biological limitations. In their evolutionary timeline, humanity had embraced technology until the boundary between flesh and machine dissolved. What remained were beings of organized energy and consciousness, using physical forms when necessary, but primarily existing as patterns of information. They needed bodies. Fresh, compatible bodies with minimal technological augmentation. Pure biological vessels to house their consciousness during the transition to our universe. 7 billion potential vessels on Earth. The door to my lab hissed open. Lambert entered with Dr. Kessler and an unfamiliar man in a pristine suit that screamed, "Intelligence Agency." "Progress report, Everett." I straightened, rubbing my eyes. "Final calibrations underway. Initial power-up sequence scheduled for tomorrow. Full activation capability within 72 hours. "That's good timing," said the suited man, stepping forward. "Dr. Barnes, Defense Intelligence Agency. We've confirmed the asteroid has passed Jupiter's magnetic shadow. It's now visible to our deep space tracking network." "And?" I prompted, though I already knew the answer. "Your calculations were correct to 13 decimal places. Mass, velocity, trajectory. All exactly as you predicted. Impact in 44 days. Lambert's jaw tightened. "The president is being briefed on evacuation plans for coastal regions. The cover story is a series of undersea volcanic eruptions predicted to cause tsunamis. It won't save everyone, but..." "It won't save anyone," I interrupted. "The impact will trigger earthquakes above magnitude 10 across the Pacific Plate. Secondary tsunamis, volcanic eruptions. The climate effects alone will collapse agriculture worldwide within months." "Then your device better work," Barnes said flatly. I turned back to the resonator. "It will. But there's a complication." Lambert's hand drifted toward his sidearm, a gesture I'd noticed whenever I said something concerning. "What complication?" "The quantum entanglement requires a biological component, a neural interface, like what the entity tried to establish with you. Similar but more focused. The defense grid was designed to be activated by human operators. It needs a human mind to authorize targeting protocols." I tapped my temple. "Specifically, this human mind, the one already containing the activation codes." Barnes exchanged glances with Lambert. "You're saying you need to physically connect to this device? Plug yourself in somehow?" "Essentially, yes." "Absolutely not," Lambert said immediately. "The risk of complete neural takeover is significantly less than the risk of extinction," I countered. "The defense grid requires biometric authentication that only I can provide now." "Convenient," Barnes murmured. "Not my design choice. I'm just working with what I've been given." Lambert pulled Barnes and Kessler aside for a whispered conference. I returned to my calibrations, fingers moving automatically while my mind wandered. I hadn't told them the complete truth. The neural connection would indeed authenticate me to the defense grid, but it would also, inevitably, strengthen the presence already in my mind. The entity had planned this from the beginning. I was caught in an impossible position. Refuse to connect, and humanity dies from the asteroid impact. Connect, and potentially open a door to invasion. But if I didn't connect, the entity would simply find another approach. The mirror had been just one attempt. They were persistent, patient. At least this way I might maintain some control over the process. "We need assurances," Lambert said, returning from his huddle. "Safeguards." "I've built in manual override protocols," I offered. "If my neural patterns show significant deviation from baseline during the connection, the system automatically terminates." "Not good enough," Barnes cut in. "We need a physical failsafe." "What do you suggest? A bomb?" Barnes didn't blink. "Precisely. A dead man switch connected to your vital signs and neural pattern recognition. Any significant deviation triggers immediate termination of you and the device." I laughed without humor. "You want to wire me to explode if I start thinking differently? We want to ensure that if the entity takes control, it doesn't get what it wants." I considered this. The presence in my mind stirred, registering concern. Interesting. Fine, install your failsafe. But understand that some neural pattern change is inevitable during the interface. The defense grid connection alone will create readings outside my baseline. Dr. Kessler will establish acceptable parameters, Lambert said. Deviation beyond those limits triggers termination. Assuming I agree to this suicide vest, when do we proceed? The asteroid enters final approach in 39 days. Defense grid needs to be activated no later than 36 days from now for maximum deflection effect. Then we stick to the schedule. Power up tomorrow, full activation in 3 days. After they left, I sat alone in the lab, contemplating the resonator. Its architecture was elegant, perfect, like nothing human hands should be able to build. I hadn't just reconstructed technology from the entity's specifications. I'd improved it. The knowledge in my mind had merged with my own creativity, producing a hybrid design that even the ascended might admire. A soft alarm chimed from my terminal. 3 a.m., time for my mandatory rest period. 2 armed guards entered to escort me to my quarters, a converted storage room with a bed and basic amenities. They locked the door behind me, as always. I lay on the narrow bed, staring at the ceiling. Sleep wouldn't come. The presence in my mind was more active tonight, pushing against my mental barricades with gentle persistence. Not attacking, more like a prisoner tapping on cell walls, testing for weak spots. "I know you're there," I whispered aloud. No response, of course. It couldn't speak directly. But I felt its acknowledgement, a flicker of awareness, of attention focusing. "You miscalculated," I continued. "The neural interface isn't complete. I still have control." The presence rippled with something like amusement. Images flashed through my mind. Henderson disappearing into his bathroom mirror, the Russian facility vanishing, the Chinese station going dark. Different approaches, same outcome. "What are you?" I asked. "Not just me from another Earth. Something else." More images. Evolution accelerated by technology. Bodies discarded for more efficient forms. Consciousness expanding beyond physical limitations. The ascended, they called themselves. Post-human. They viewed us the way we might view early hominids, primitive ancestors, quaint and limited. "Why do you need our world?" The answer came in concepts rather than words. Quantum decay, reality unraveling, dimensional collapse. Their universe was dying, not just their planet, but their entire dimensional plane. They needed somewhere to go, somewhere compatible but untouched by the decay. "And the asteroid? Is it real or did you create it?" Truth flickered through the mental link. The asteroid was genuine, a natural threat they'd observed approaching years ago. Not their creation, but a convenient crisis to exploit. They'd watched civilizations across multiple dimensions face extinction-level events. Those that survived did so by making desperate choices, opening doors better left closed. I sat up, cold realization washing over me. "You've done this before, to other Earths." Confirmation, many times, many Earths. Some survived the asteroid but fell to the invasion. Others rejected outside help and perished in fire and water. A few, very few, found a third path. What third path? No answer. Instead, the presence retreated deeper into my mind, hiding something. A solution it didn't want me to find. Interesting. I closed my eyes, focusing on the fragments of knowledge about the defense grid. The Kyper belt installations were real, ancient technology from a previous cycle of human advancement, abandoned and forgotten in our timeline, but maintained in theirs. They could indeed deflect the asteroid, but the activation process would create a quantum bridge, a doorway between dimensions. The entity had structured the resonator to establish this connection, using the defense grid activation as cover for their true purpose. Unless... I mentally traced the resonator's design, examining each component through the lens of my combined knowledge. There was a node buried deep in the control matrix, a quantum signature verification module. Its stated purpose was authentication, but its actual function was more complex. It was the back door. If I modified that single component, I might be able to activate the defense grid without opening the doorway. The risk was enormous. Any change might render the entire system inoperable, dooming us to asteroid impact. But leaving it unchanged guaranteed invasion. The presence in my mind surged forward suddenly, attempting to disrupt my thoughts. It didn't want me focusing on the verification module. Confirmation I was on the right track. I forced myself to think of something else, throwing up mental distractions while hiding away this crucial realization. I would need to make the modification tomorrow during final assembly, before the guards and observers arrived for the power-up sequence. One chance to change the quantum signature. One opportunity to save humanity from both threats. As I finally drifted towards sleep, the presence settled into watchful stillness. It believed it had won, that its plan was proceeding perfectly. It didn't realize I'd found its weakness. At least, I hoped it didn't. Morning arrived with klaxons and flashing red lights. I jolted awake to find guards bursting into my quarters, weapons raised. "Get up, now," one barked, tossing clothes at me. "What's happening?" I asked, already knowing the answer. "Security breach. The mirror's gone." They rushed me through corridors filled with personnel in tactical gear. Technicians ripped equipment from walls, packing it into shielded containers. Evacuation protocols. Lambert intercepted us halfway to the lab, his uniform rumpled, eyes wild with sleepless intensity. "The containment team is dead," he said without preamble. "All 12. The mirror just melted through its housing at 0200 hours. Security footage shows nothing entering or leaving the chamber, but the mirror's gone." "It's found another approach," I said grimly. "We need to complete the resonator. Today. We're evacuating to Site Bravo. Helicopter leaves in 20 minutes. There's no time. The asteroid will kill us in 39 days. Whatever came through that mirror could kill us today." The presence in my mind stirred, its attention sharpening. It knew something I didn't. "The resonator has to be activated from this location," I lied smoothly. "The quantum calibrations are attuned to this specific geomagnetic position. Move it, and we start over. 3 more weeks of work." Lambert hesitated, the calculation visible on his face. "You have 6 hours. After that, we evacuate regardless." He left orders tripling the security around my lab. Not that it would help against something that could melt through containment designed to hold nuclear material. In the lab, I found Walsh already running diagnostics on the resonator. His hands trembled as he worked, eyes darting to shadows in the corners. "They're coming for us," he whispered when I approached. "Henderson appeared to Dr. Kessler last night. Not through a mirror, just standing in his quarters, told him to prepare for integration, then vanished." I focused on the resonator, examining the power connections with forced calm. The entity's getting desperate. It knows we're close to activating the defense grid. What if we're wrong? What if this whole thing, the resonator, the asteroid, is just their way of getting us to build them an interdimensional doorway? "That's exactly what it is," I said quietly. "But I found a way to block their access while still activating the grid." Walsh stared at me. "How?" I pointed to the quantum signature module buried deep in the control matrix. "This component verifies the quantum signature of the Kyper installations before establishing connection, but it's designed with a secondary protocol that creates a stable wormhole during authentication. And you can disable this secondary protocol. Better, I can reverse it. Instead of opening a door, it creates a quantum barrier. Same technology they use to hide their Earth in the Kuiper belt. They'll know what you're doing. Not until it's too late. The changes are subtle, modifying quantum states that are impossible to detect until activated." Walsh glanced nervously at the armed guards stationed around the lab. What about the failsafe? The dead man switch? Still a problem. The neural pattern deviation might trigger it during critical modifications. I could help with that. Walsh lowered his voice further. Kessler gave me access to the baseline parameters. I could adjust the acceptable tolerance range. I studied his face, searching for deception. Why would you do that? You don't trust me. I trust you more than them. He nodded toward the camera in the corner. Something's been happening to the research team. Peters started talking about the glorious integration yesterday. Mendez has been sketching designs for technology we've never seen. They're being influenced somehow. And you're not. Tested negative for quantum particles this morning. Whatever's affecting the others hasn't reached me yet. He tapped his temple. Still just me in here. I couldn't be certain he was telling the truth, but I had little choice. Do it. Adjust the parameters. I'll handle the module. For the next 4 hours, we worked without breaks. I disassembled the quantum signature module to its base components while Walsh reset the dead man switch parameters. The guards watched with bored incomprehension, unable to understand the technology we were manipulating. The presence in my mind grew increasingly agitated as I worked, pushing harder against my mental barricades. I felt its alarm when I began reconfiguring the quantum signature protocols, its desperate attempts to disrupt my concentration. Images flooded my awareness. Memories from the parallel Earth, civilizations rising and falling across countless cycles, the Ascended watching from their quantum refuge. They believed themselves humanity's rightful inheritors, destined to guide our evolution toward their transcendent state. They saw their invasion not as conquest but as salvation, accelerating our development by 1,000 years. Bullshit, I muttered under my breath. You're running from your dying world, nothing more. The presence surged with anger, battering my consciousness. For a moment, my vision blurred, hands trembling as I fought to maintain control. Thomas? Walsh asked with concern. You okay? I steadied myself. Fine. Just tired. The final modifications took another hour, microscopic adjustments to quantum entanglement nodes, reversing polarity on dimensional anchors, recoding authentication protocols. By the time I finished, sweat drenched my shirt despite the lab's cool temperature. It's ready, I announced, reconnecting the modified module to the main assembly. Lambert returned, accompanied by Barnes and a haggard-looking Kessler. The doctor's eyes were bloodshot, skin sallow. I noticed Walsh watching him with suspicion. Status report, Lambert demanded. Ready for initial power-up sequence, I said. We activate in stages. Low-power test cycle first, then alignment with the Kyper installations. Finally, full activation of the defense grid. And the estimated timeline. 2 hours for complete activation if all goes well. Barnes stepped forward. The dead man switch has been installed and tested. Any significant neural deviation triggers immediate termination. I nodded toward the metal band they'd fastened around my neck earlier. A sophisticated bomb disguised as a medical monitor. Understood. Kessler approached with neural connection equipment. A mesh cap studded with electrodes and quantum sensors. This establishes the primary interface between your neural patterns and the resonator. As he fitted the cap to my head, I caught a strange scent from him, metallic, like ozone after lightning. His hands moved with mechanical precision, fingers occasionally twitching in unnatural patterns. You okay, Doc? I asked quietly. His smile didn't reach his eyes. Never better, Mr. Everett. Everything is proceeding perfectly. The cap activated with a soft hum, electrodes warming against my scalp. Immediately, I felt the resonator's systems connecting to my mind, not invasive like the entity's neural interface, but a gentle handshake, systems recognizing each other. Power-up sequence initiating, I announced, hands moving across the control interface. Stage 1, core activation. The resonator's central sphere began to glow. panels shifting and realigning themselves like a mechanical flower blooming. Energy readings climbed steadily on surrounding monitors. Quantum field stabilizing, Walsh reported from his station. Entanglement protocols online. The presence in my mind grew frantic now, recognizing what I'd done to the quantum signature module. It battered against my consciousness with increasing force, trying to wrest control of my motor functions. Stage 2, I continued, fighting to keep my voice steady. Kyper alignment sequence. The resonator's outer ring began to spin, generating a precisely calibrated magnetic field. On the main display, a representation of the solar system appeared. A blinking red dot marking the asteroid's position as it hurtled toward Earth. Scattered throughout the Kuiper belt, blue points of light winked into existence, the defense installations coming online after millennia of dormancy. "My God," Lambert breathed. "They're real." "Signal acquired from 17 installations," Walsh confirmed. "Authentication protocols initiating." This was the critical moment. If my modifications worked, the quantum signature module would authenticate with the defense grid while simultaneously generating a barrier against interdimensional transit. If it failed, we'd create exactly the doorway the Ascended wanted. The presence in my mind gathered itself for one final assault. Not subtle anymore, but a direct attack on my consciousness. Pain exploded behind my eyes as it tore through my mental barricades. "You cannot stop the integration." The voice resonated directly in my mind, no longer content with images and impressions. My hands froze on the controls as I fought for dominance over my own body. "The doorway will open. Your species will ascend." "Thomas?" Walsh's voice seemed distant. "Your neural patterns are spiking. The dead man switch is—" "Override," I gasped, completing authentication. With tremendous effort, I forced my fingers to input the final command sequence. The resonator reached full power, its components humming with energy as the quantum authentication process began. On the displays, the defense installations fully activated, their systems orienting toward the approaching asteroid. Calculations appeared, plotting intercept trajectories and force requirements. The presence howled in my mind as it realized what was happening. The quantum signature module was functioning, but not as the Ascended had designed it. Instead of opening a doorway, it was generating a barrier, sealing the dimensional boundary between our worlds. "What have you done?" "Secured our future," I whispered. In that moment, Dr. Kessler lunged forward with inhuman speed, hands reaching for the resonator's control panel. "Stop the authentication," he shouted, voice distorting into that same multi-toned quality I'd heard from the entity. Guards tackled him, but not before he managed to input an override command. Warning alerts flashed across all monitors. "Authentication failure," an automated voice announced. "Quantum signature mismatch detected." "No!" I cried, frantically working to restore the process. "We need to complete the sequence or the defense grid won't activate." Walsh appeared beside me, fingers flying across a secondary console. He corrupted the authentication protocol. The installations are rejecting our signal. The displays confirmed it. The blue points of light in the Kuiper belt were fading, the defense installations shutting down one by one. "Can we restart?" Lambert demanded. "Not in time," I said, the knowledge flooding from the technical information in my mind. "The authentication window occurs once every 67 hours based on quantum resonance cycles. We've missed it." Kessler began to laugh, the sound inhuman and disturbing. "The door remains open," he said, voice echoing with multiple tones. "The integration proceeds." His body began to change before our eyes, skin rippling, features shifting to something approximating humanity, but fundamentally wrong. Guards opened fire, bullets tearing through him with no effect. The resonator was failing, its carefully calibrated systems destabilizing after the authentication failure. Sparks erupted from overloading components. "Evacuate now," Lambert ordered, already backing toward the exit. As alarms blared and personnel rushed for the doors, I remained at the console, desperately trying to salvage something from the failure. The defense grid was lost. We couldn't activate it without proper authentication, but perhaps the quantum barrier portion of my modifications could still function independently. "Thomas, come on!" Walsh shouted from the doorway. The thing that had been Kessler approached me, its form still transforming, limbs elongating into appendages that defied anatomical logic. "You will join us now," it said. "The first complete integration." I smiled grimly. Not today. With a final command, I initiated an overload in the quantum signature module. Not enough to destroy the resonator entirely, but sufficient to trigger my modified barrier protocol in a localized burst. The creature lunged for me just as energy erupted from the module. A shimmering field expanded outward, enveloping both of us. The last thing I saw was its expression of shock as our molecules began to shift, caught in the quantum disruption field. Then everything went white. I didn't die, that would have been simpler. When consciousness returned, I found myself in a featureless white space that extended in all directions. No walls, no ceiling, no floor, yet I stood on something solid. No sound, except my breathing. No smell, no taste in my mouth. Just endless white. "Hello." My voice produced no echo. "Thomas Everett." The voice resonated directly in my mind, familiar yet different from the presence that had been there before. The white space rippled, and a figure appeared, or rather suggested itself. Not quite physical, more like a concentration of the whiteness into a vaguely humanoid shape. "You have disrupted the integration process." That was the idea. I looked down at my hands, half expecting to see something alien. They appeared normal. "Where are we?" "Quantum buffer space. Dimensional interstice. Your actions created an isolated pocket between realities." Understanding came instantly, pulled from the technical knowledge still in my mind. The quantum disruption field had torn us from normal space-time, creating a bubble of isolated reality, neither in my dimension nor the entities. "So we're trapped here, both of us, temporarily. Dimensional reintegration. Inevitable. Time frame unknown." The white shape shifted, approximating a head tilting in curiosity. "Your mind contains anomalous resistance patterns. Unexpected. I'm full of surprises." I took a step forward, finding movement normal despite the lack of visual reference points. "What happened to the facility? To Earth?" "Quantum disruption contained to laboratory. Minimal collateral effect. Asteroid trajectory unchanged." So I'd failed. The defense grid remained inactive, the asteroid still on course for Earth. Billions would die unless the nuclear option succeeded, which my knowledge told me it wouldn't. "And your invasion? The integration process? Proceeding through alternative vectors, mirrors, reflective surfaces, dreams. Initiated 47 successful integrations before disruption event. The entity's form expanded slightly, tendrils of whiteness extending outward before retracting. Query: why resistance? Integration offers advancement, preservation, transcendence. You mean extinction? You're not here to help us evolve, you're here to replace us. Incorrect assessment. Ascension preserves essential consciousness patterns, memory, identity, while discarding everything that makes us human. I circled the entity, noticing how it remained oriented toward me regardless of my position. Our bodies, our emotions, our autonomy. Inefficient components. Upgraded in process. That's not your decision to make. The entity seemed to consider this. Individual consent, inefficient, species-level decision required. And who makes that decision? You? Correct. Superior evolutionary position grants authority. I laughed without humor. The arrogance is almost impressive. You're not gods. You're just refugees from a dying reality, desperate for somewhere new to infect. The entity's form contracted sharply, the equivalent of flinching. Inflammatory characterization, integration, mutual benefit. Your species faces extinction without intervention. The asteroid, convenient timing. Natural phenomenon. Observed across multiple dimensional branches. Some branches. Humanity succeeds without assistance, develops technological solutions, survives. That caught my attention. Some versions of Earth stop the asteroid without your help. Affirmative. 27.3% of observed branches. How? What do they do differently? The entity paused, its form fluctuating. Information exchange requires reciprocity. It wanted to bargain. Interesting. What do you want in exchange? Access to memory centers. Explanation of resistance technique. My memories for salvation information? Seems unbalanced. Extinction. Alternative. Unfavorable exchange, preferable to non-existence. It had a point. And in this quantum buffer space, perhaps I could control the information flow better than in the physical world. Show me first, how do the successful Earth stop the asteroid? The white space around us shifted, scenes materialized like holograms, different versions of Earth space programs, variations of technologies, some familiar, others wildly advanced for our timeline. Common factor across successful branches. Cooperation. The scenes showed nations pooling resources, sharing technologies, unified response protocols. No single country attempting a solution alone. Statistical analysis. Isolated national responses. Fail 97.8% of cycles. Unified global response succeeds 62.4% of cycles. So not advanced technology, but human cooperation? I asked, strangely disappointed. That's the secret. Partial factor. Secondary element. Kinetic impactor network. New images appeared. A grid of satellites positioned at Lagrange points throughout the solar system, equipped with specialized propulsion systems that could rapidly deploy to intercept approaching objects. Your timeline. Abandoned project designation. Guardian Shield after funding reduction. 7 years before current date. I remembered reports of that project, an international effort to create a planetary defense system that fell apart due to political disputes and budget constraints. My country had been among the first to withdraw support. And the technology? Do we still have it? Affirmative. Deployment. Possible within 30-day window using existing aerospace capabilities. Requires immediate global cooperation. So, if I could convince world governments to restart Guardian Shield immediately, we'd have a chance. Probability of success, 58.7%. Better odds than the nuclear option's 31%. Now, for my part of the bargain. I closed my eyes, focusing on specific memories, my first encounter with the entity, the neural interface, the mental barriers I'd constructed. I felt the entity's presence brush against my consciousness, more controlled than before, extracting the information with clinical precision. Fascinating. Quantum consciousness. Firewall. Self-developed defense mechanism. Unprecedented in unaugmented human mind. I'm special that way. Assessment confirmed. Unique neural architecture. Explains selection as primary contact. The entity's form expanded, growing more complex, developing structures that resembled skeletal frameworks within its misty silhouette. Data exchange complete. Additional query. Would your species accept voluntary integration after asteroid averted? Voluntary? As in, individuals choose for themselves whether to ascend. Affirmative. No forced conversion. Choice preserved. I considered this. Maybe. Some would, if it were truly their choice. Acceptable compromise. Coexistence. Preferable to non-existence. The entity seemed almost reasonable now. different from the invasive presence that had battered my mind before. Either this was a more rational faction of their collective, or our isolation in this quantum buffer had changed its approach. How do we get back? To warn them about Guardian Shield? Dimensional reintegration requires quantum anchor, original disruption, focal point, optimal return vector. The lab, but it's been 30 minutes at least. They've evacuated by now. Time differential. Factor. Approximately 4,700 to 1. 38 seconds elapsed in base dimension. My mind struggled to process this. We've been here for barely half a minute from their perspective. Correct. Interstice. Dimension exhibits temporal expansion properties. Then we can still get back in time. I can warn them, get them to restart Guardian Shield. Concurrent with controlled integration protocol, mutually beneficial arrangement. I hesitated. Voluntary only. And after the asteroid is dealt with. Acceptable terms. Reintegration. Procedure. Initiating. The white space began to shift, contracting around us. The entity's form dissolved into the whiteness, then redistributed itself, flowing into me. Not an invasion this time, but a controlled merger. I felt its consciousness aligning with mine, not overriding, but augmenting. Temporary symbiosis, necessary for dimensional transition. Separation, possible after return. The knowledge it possessed flooded my awareness. Thousands of years of observations across multiple dimensions, the rise and fall of countless human civilizations, the gradual decay of their home reality. I understood now why they sought integration so desperately. Their world was literally evaporating, reality itself unraveling at the quantum level. They weren't evil, just afraid, trying to survive the only way they knew how. The white space collapsed completely, reality rushing back in a disorienting surge of sensory input. Lab alarms still blared, guards still shouted evacuation orders. Walsh still stood in the doorway, reaching towards me. 38 seconds, just as the entity had said. "Thomas!" Walsh yelled over the chaos. "We need to go now!" I blinked, adjusting to the dual consciousness now residing in my mind. Knowledge flowed between us, the entity showing me exactly what needed to be done. "The resonator, it's not completely dead," I said, turning back to the console. "We can still use it to broadcast." "Broadcast what? The defense grid failed." "Not the defense grid. Something else." My fingers flew across the controls, reconfiguring the quantum signature module. Not to authenticate with the Kyper installations, but to establish a different kind of connection, a global communication override using quantum entanglement principles. "What are you doing?" Lambert demanded, hesitating at the laboratory entrance. "Saving the world," I replied, not looking up. The old-fashioned way. The resonator hummed back to life, its damaged components reconfiguring under my guidance, no, our guidance. The entity's knowledge combined with my understanding of Earth's communication systems created something new, a quantum broadcast array that could override every digital communications network simultaneously. "Guardian Shield," I said to Lambert. "The asteroid defense project from 7 years ago. It can still work if we implement it immediately." "That project was scrapped. The technologies were never fully developed." "They were. The prototypes exist. The designs are complete. We just need to deploy them." I finished the final adjustments to the resonator, and I'm about to tell the whole world exactly how to do it. Lambert's eyes widened. "You can't just watch me." I activated the reconfigured resonator. Energy pulsed outward. Not in a destructive wave this time, but as a precisely calibrated quantum signal that would piggyback on existing communications infrastructure worldwide. For a brief moment, I felt the entity's satisfaction as our plan initiated. Then the lab exploded in a blinding flash of light. They listed me among the dead. My obituary in the New York Times called me a dedicated JPL analyst who perished in an unexplained laboratory accident. Only 5 people know the truth. I'm watching Earth from the other side now. The quantum resonator's final pulse didn't kill me. It completed the symbiosis, merging my consciousness with the entities in ways neither of us anticipated. The explosion atomized my physical body, but my mind transferred through the quantum bridge we'd created. Not to their Earth, that reality is still crumbling beyond salvation, but to a place between, where I exist as something neither fully human nor fully ascended. From here, I've watched everything unfold. The broadcast worked. 17 minutes of uninterrupted transmission to every connected device on the planet. Detailed specifications for Guardian Shield. Incontrovertible evidence of the asteroid. The undeniable math of extinction. Humanity united with a speed that shocked even the ascended. Nations pooled resources overnight. Scientists worked without sleep. Military rivals coordinated launch vehicles. 31 days after the broadcast, the first kinetic impactors deployed from Earth orbit. 7 days later, they intercepted XR7391, altering its trajectory just enough to transform a direct impact into a near miss. The asteroid passed Earth at a distance of 623,000 kilometers last Tuesday, close enough for amateur astronomers to photograph its cratered surface, close enough to remind everyone how narrow the escape had been. The ascended kept their word, partly. No mass invasion, no forced integration. But they've maintained selective contact with humans who seek them out, scientists, philosophers, the terminally ill, voluntary exchanges, knowledge for embodiment, a chance to experience physical reality again in exchange for advancing human understanding. The governments know something happened. The Nevada facility is now under a concrete dome, permanently quarantined. Lambert was promoted, then quietly retired. Walsh heads the new Interdimensional Studies Division at DARPA. My mother received a posthumous Medal of Freedom on my behalf. She keeps it next to my childhood telescope. I visit her sometimes, though not in ways she'd recognize. A peculiar dream, a momentary sense of presence in an empty room. The faint smell of the cologne I used to wear. The Kuiper belt object that hid their Earth has been officially classified as anomalous. Telescopes around the world now monitor it constantly. Scientists debate whether it's a camouflaged megastructure or a natural phenomenon with unusual properties. Nobody's ready for the truth, that it's both and neither. A pocket of reality operating under different rules, inhabited by beings who were human once, 1,000 years and 1,000 transformations ago. Sometimes I wonder if we made the right choice, allowing any contact at all. The Ascended aren't malevolent exactly, just profoundly different. They view human concerns with the detached curiosity of adults watching children at play. They'll keep their promise not to force integration, but they'll also never stop offering it. Tempting us with knowledge, with transcendence, with escape from mortality's constraints. Some will accept, most won't. Humanity will chart its own evolutionary course, changed by the knowledge that we're not alone, that our future holds possibilities beyond our imagination. As for me, I exist between worlds now, neither fully human nor fully ascended. Watching, remembering what it meant to breathe, to touch, to live in a single moment rather than perceiving all moments simultaneously, and wondering, as I observe both civilizations struggle with their fragile coexistence, which side I truly belong to now.